about content abandonment and reminders. And this came from India, so Shivangi, you can probably have a go at this. So this was essentially a cross-channel journey. We often refer to this as user journeys and flows as well. And the goal of this was to convert the content abandonments to completion. If I've left watching a series midway or a movie midway, how can you send me reminders and how can you get me back to the app, right? So multivariate testing is one feature that this marketer implemented, and the audience size and the goals were similar to the previous campaign, which was 500K, more than 500K users, and they're tracking video playback as the conversion event. The CTRs and conversion rates are there, but apart from push notification, it's really good to see that they have used emails and in-app interstitials as well. So, yep, Shivangi, what do you think about this campaign? What would you recommend? What have they done good? What can they improve?
Sure, Pulkit. So I think, it's if you are in the space and if you're dealing with, content consumption as one of your primary goals, I don't think you can basically avoid a situation where an abandonment doesn't happen, right? So you have to deal with it. You have to then understand what are the right kind of nudges that can help me recover some of these users, because this is the absolute truth we are living with, right? So let's focus on the good parts about the campaign that we see right now. As always, pushes are a great way to start re-engagement for some of these campaigns, because, hey, I've just unfinished a movie or left a video unattended, and I mean, I'm just looking for a reminder on my phone itself as the first channel, right? And we know pushes are better performing than rest of the channels in the industry today, so that's good. And what I also like about this campaign is that, they're covering other channels as well as a fallback to push, because in all likelihood, no channel cannot fail, right? So even when a push fails a user in terms of activating him or getting him to come back to the app, fall back to email and in-app interstitials. So that's again a great positive about this. So we are touching the user across multiple touch points. What I also again like is that, they're experimenting with what's working with the user base in terms of the content, right? So we have multivariate testing, and we know for a fact that, this is bound to get their click-through rates up by at least a 1.3 times than the usual click-through rates, because here they're actually learning from their live users feedback to know what's working for them, right? um, so that's again a great thing to notice here. What is also interesting to see is that, the conversion rates are well within the benchmark itself, because what we usually see for these kind of campaigns is a 33.15% of an average, to be very specific, around 30%, right? But so their conversion rates are in range. But so these are some of the positives that we notice here. Having said that, there's still, of course, a scope for improvement, because what we still do not see here is an average or a benchmark click-through rates for that matter, right? So an average click-through rate that we see for such campaigns are anywhere north of a 3%, so to say, usually, right? And while they are using cross-channel journeys, they're also not leveraging social media retargeting as part of it, right? So you are bound to always realize that, the own channels are not all, right? Not it, basically, right? So push, then email, then SMSs, in apps, everything will fail you. Then you need to start talking about your platform across other social media platforms to subtly nudge them and remind the users to either continue watching the content from your apps, or, sending them, let's say, posters with the cast pictures or awards won by some of these shows. It's a great way to have them start noticing your pushes more on the trail, basically, right? Because ultimately they will then be more reactive to some of these own channels, right? So that's something that can improve. However, CTRs, it will still, I think, remain a bit of a concern on the own channel. So what I would suggest is adding personalization flavor, not just in the form of users attribute, basically, not just saying that, hey Hastu or Pulkit, you were watching Tumbar, but you have abandoned it, right? might as well go ahead and say that you were actually watching Tumbar from this particular genre, right? So taking personalization a step further from users level details to content level details that these guys were leveraging on your platform, because this has a decided impact of boosting your click-through rates to a 3.23% and conversion rates further to up to 35 or 36% is what we have seen in the industry, right? So that would be my first advice. Second would be, really focusing on what is key here to show. Like, even Hastu mentioned earlier that it is limited real estate that you're playing with. You need to be really careful about what you show and what will work, right? So especially with respect to the graphics or the rich media that you're leveraging or associating with your personalized content, right? So which is where I think, expanding that space to leverage more images as a default will help a lot, right? And at the same time adding a flavor of custom sounds on the top of it, right? Because every OTT platform has its own sound that a person relates to, right? There are ads there are, launch themes there, music there that a person relates to, right? So if at all there is a custom sound associating with it, I'm more likely to know that, hey, a Z TV is looking to reach out to me, right? Over, let's say, a Hotstar for that matter, right? So this is bound to help you increase your click-through rates to up to a 1.4x with images alone, and a 1.7, actually a 7 times with custom sounds is what we have seen, right? Because it just is a subtle way of nudging your users to say that, hey, we're there, right? So that is going to work a lot. At the same time, I think, these mechanisms are also going to boost your conversion rates to some extent. So like in the industry today, we see that, with custom images, personalized custom images, we see an increase in conversions by around a 1.8x, and an increase in conversion similarly for custom sounds by around a 4.7 times, right? So we are getting our base covered on all the conversion metrics and click metrics here, right? So personalization with what you show is important. What would be even more interesting is adding a flavor of understanding where your users are, right? Basically, users' location as well as their preferred language, because it's still a very personal choice what I want to watch or what I want to hear for that matter, right? So why not understand these users better and talk to them in the language that relates or resonates more to them, right? And push content which is basically more relevant to the region that the user belongs to as well, right? Which is where I think, messages in preferred languages as well as, pushing relevant content from the region is going to really help their game in terms of upticking some of this metrics. Because just with localization flavor, we have seen an uptick in click-through rates by to up to 17% as well, right? So and that's a great number to see for some of these content reminders, right? So you're taking it a step further, right? You could even, go ahead and say that, let me just deep dive into understanding what could be a particular user's preferred genre for that matter, right? For example, another way to look at it is identify what else is working for him in the same genre, because I abandoned the content, I maybe do not want to continue watching those, right? So might as well understand, these are new content releases from the same genre, or leverage RFM analysis to understand what is the affinity of a user towards a particular genre over others, right? And then do a reminder or a nudge basis these insights. For example, there is, in comedy drama, there is a release of Gulabo Satabo. If I have an affinity towards that, push that to me, a trailer of that for that matter, on a push video for iOS users, let's say. Or if I'm I did abandon a movie in the inspirational sector or a biography, then there is a new release of Kunjan Saxena, for that matter, on Netflix or Prime, right? So these are like adding more context and personalization flavor will help a lot in terms of abandonments, because this is the absolute low hanging fruit wherein you need to make the most out of this opportunity, right? So that's my advice.